major role in the liberation struggle and today continue to play an important role in the development of a young democracy. From Joe Slovo to Rusty Bernstein, Arthur Goldreich, to Albie Sachs, the Lipinskis and the Lebowskis, amongst others. The Jewish community in this country, albeit small, has delivered numerous leaders in every sector of society, be it business, medicine, politics, as well as the law. Some of the greatest South African patriots emanate from this particular community. Are we doing enough as communities, and especially as faith-based communities, to speak directly on those things and to find programs to address those things?
We need to try, as Marius has said, to shift that conversation away from an exclusive focus on Israel and to get into issues that are probably closer to home. But I do, for myself, believe that the space for Jews to interact, be it with Muslims, be it with ANC, be it with DA, doesn't matter to me. Rather depends on the major societal forces, how much room they leave for a minority group to engage.
We are a committed group of people and we'd like to partner with you. I'm holding two things that are on the seats here, the things that the board is doing. One is a mentorship program. We are partnering with the HCI Foundation and with the Black Management Forum. We've been creating partnerships and we want to push that forward in 2013. So I'd love to communicate more with you about how we can do that.
One of the challenges that I want to put up to this community is simply don't just work with the DA. I'm confident that unless we deal with some of, I don't know what was the name, Jean, I think. Gina raised it. So if you ask, is there possibilities of engagement, and I want to finish off with this, there is the Western Cape Economic Development Forum. That's in the province. When the Provincial Development Council, a dialogue structure created under provincial government ANC, was closed down, a few months ago we've opened this issue thing. Philip them are leading that process. It is in different regions of the Western Cape, and there's also a youth development forum in that.
There is so much work to be done in this province to really help people. And I understand that you're a politician. I understand that politics is dirty. But there is work to be done. Okay, now if we spend all the time vilifying each other, shooting missiles, excuse the pun, at each other from the ANC to the DA, DN to the ANC, where is the work being done? Is there not a way to create this citizenry of the Western Cape, South African citizenry that says it's okay to be a democracy that has multiple parties that disagree with each other?
The ANC and the government stance on the Israel-Palestine situation is a source of great deal of tension, anxiety and unhappiness to many Jewish people living in our country and in this city. My view is that it need to not be, but I acknowledge that it is an issue. Equally, so the stance of the Jewish Board of Deputies on the Israeli-Palestinian situation is similarly a problem for many ANC members and ANC supporters. Therefore, dialogue is essential.
The other thing is, you are also Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, and you seem to, or this government seems to have two policies with regard to foreign affairs. With Israel, you treat it very differently to the rest of the world. Israel is not treated with the same respect that you give to other sovereign states. So the policy officially is that you do not interfere in the governing of sovereign states and in internal affairs. But that is exactly what you've been doing all the time with Israel. So if you can comment on that, thank you.
Just on the labelling issue, throughout this process that has gone on for a long, long time now, the Jewish community was informed that this was about complying with the Consumer Protection Act. And this is all it was about, and in fact that this was your great concern. What concerned us is that we seem to feel that Israel was being treated one policy for labelling for Israel, one policy for the rest of the world. And the reason why we raised it was because when you look at other conflict areas, be it Kashmir, be it northern Cyprus, be it the Western Sahara, be it Tibet, there's no application of this type of labeling law applied to them. It's only applied to one conflict area, which is Israel. Nevertheless, the protestation from government and from the party and from everybody concerned was that this was simply about labeling and about the Consumer Protection Act. Yet in Athlone, you state over here, the DTI has recently, in May 2012, released a government notice, 379 of 2012, as a strategy to apply economic pressure on Israel. Now, is this about South Africa's foreign policy that's been hijacked and is being used to apply pressure on Israel, or is this about the Consumer Protection Act? So I'd like to know which it actually is.
We made, your words are very conciliatory, dialogue and to engage on this issue. And Christians are not bystanders in this issue. But what we do find rather upsetting is that often government takes the sides of those that are calling for sanctions and various things against Israel. And part of that reasoning attacks our very faith, which then brings us into the discussion where we say we cannot keep quiet. But the dilemma I have is, you talk of dialogue, but the discussion I hear is anything but dialogue at all.
Marius, you made a statement in your main address in which you said that the ANC, because it is the government, what it does has a far broader effect on society than any other political party's behavior or any other civil organization's behavior. I think that what is of the greatest concern to the Jewish community in Cape Town, not only in Cape Town, but throughout South Africa, the greatest concern is the development of a very, very antagonistic movement which is incorporating a lot of anti-Semitic tendencies, which is focused on boycott, disinvestment and sanctions of Israel. It is such a hyped movement that it makes it almost impossible for any Jewish person to come forward and have his point of view aired, whether it's a university, whatever is the forum. This is comparing the most barbaric events in the history of the world, be it the Holocaust, be it whatever, and saying Israel is all those things. We've got to have boycott, disinvestment and sanctions. There's no question that this is a movement that is spreading through a large number of civil organizations, and it will be with us and a growing force as long as the Middle East issues are not resolved. But I would say the biggest fear of the Jewish community in South Africa is that the ANC will adopt such a point of view. Mangaung is right here. That is the moment when it's going to happen, if it happens. And I believe that all the questions of dialogue with Jewish community and an ANC, Jewish community with the government and so on, are just incredibly damaged by the ANC itself adopting policies to promote boycott, sanctions and disinvestment. If you listen to all the questions about Israel, whether they're the travel ban, whether they're the labeling, whatever it is, all of these questions arise out of a fear that the ANC itself will give policy direction to government that says that is our official point of view. And I don't think that you're in a position tonight to say what Mangaung policy is going to do. There's 6,000 people there, but the fact of the matter is, I think that you need to go away from this meeting with that message, is to say that, look, if you want to deal with the Jewish community in the spirit of dialogue, constructive engagement, whatever it is, you need to deal with that particular issue in a manner that leaves you some room to have that dialogue.
Former President Mandela said South Africa will never be free until the people of Palestine are free and the people of East Timor and the people of Western Sahara. It was a general statement, not directed specifically at Palestine, just so we have that for the record.
Well, of course, I think on the matter that you have raised, which has been raised previously also, I think you heard Marius saying that there's a particular policy that we have on this issue. He went as far as saying unapologetically so. I do think that if we reflect on what you are saying, it comes across as if we are not taking similar positions on very many different countries when it comes to the issue of human rights per se. And many times we want to escape from that word. Are we constant when it comes to Israel, when it comes to whatever happens in the rest of the Middle East and has happened, I dare say Zimbabwe, and so on? Of course, it does look that there's more need to have more direct dialogue other than dialogue via the newspaper. Because some of the things that are being raised here are things that are headlines in the newspapers which has not been created by ourselves, which we haven't written, but we are expected to respond to. And I think that's unfair many times, that we are forced to respond to things that is not ours. Why must we take ownership when somebody decides, look, this is the headline that they're going to have? The only way to deal with that is direct dialogue. It's also not going to help to write letters, because of course there will need to be a response. That doesn't mean you shouldn't write a letter, but that cannot be the only form of communication. And so I think, I can't tell you that Mangaung is going to take a different position from what it did in Stellenbosch, from what it did in the Northwest a couple of years ago, from what it will do in Mangaung, because the ANC's got a particular position when it comes to international issues right around the country. But I do think as we raise the Israeli issue, it will be good to sharply raise the issue of the Moroccan people. It's the same issue. And so I can continue to give you a number of, we had them in Parliament, and I mean, you can't believe it, the similarities about the struggles that they too have. And we say exactly the same thing, but we don't see these headlines, we don't see these headlines. So I welcome what you are saying, but I think you are also understanding that we have a particular policy position and we do not choose the one over the other. And I do think it's maybe a little bit unfair to say that we get a bit more heated when it comes to the one, and we do not apply the same kind of response when it comes to different, in this instance, to the Israeli matter. But of course, I welcome the fact that we've got to have more direct engagement with each other. Thanks.